And they said, and each one said, no, we're not a Christian. No, this is not a Christian gathering. We just come along and a bit of fun, that kind of thing, just to, just going down, a bit of fun. And they said to the evangelist there, are you a Christian? He said, no, me, I'm no Christian, not me. And every one of them denied being a Christian. And then there was this little old woman, 80 years old, little bony old woman, the bones sticking out of her hand virtually. So she got up and she went along to that soldier and said to the soldier, look, I don't know about all these others, but I want to tell you something. I am a Christian. I am a child of God, and I'm proud to be a Christian. She said, you can take me away and do what you like with me, but I'm a Christian. And the soldier looked at her and said, yes, ma'am, you are a real Christian. We're not going to take you, we'll take all these other cowards. We as Christians, we need to be bold, be strong, for the Lord our God is with us. God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of love and of power and of a sound mind. Before this had happened, or during this period, David was not there. David was the youngest of Jesse's brothers. He had been, at this time, he had been anointed to be king, but he was still minding the sheep. And then David's father said to Jesse, I want you to take some food for your brothers in the front line. And he thought, oh, that's wonderful. I'll get to see my brothers just in their army gear. And he was quite pleased. And as David came near, he hears this Philistine boasting and bragging. And he thought, and David's getting excited now, because he hears this Philistine fighting. And David was a man that loved the Lord. And I'm sure that he thought, oh well, my brother take care of him. And he's looking at his brothers, he said, my brother take care of him. And he's looking around and they're all shaking. None of the armies, and David's, what's happening here? What's that? None of them going forward. David's expecting someone to come forward. And his brothers, no, they're not fighting. And he thinks, oh, maybe Saul's going to come up. You're expecting Saul to come riding out now. I mean, yeah, Goliath was a big man, but so was Saul. The Bible said about Saul that he was head and shoulders above everyone else. Saul was no small man. He might as well have been, because he was a coward, but he was big in stature. But he was a coward. And so David speaks out. He couldn't understand it. His brothers are not fighting. Goliath's not coming out. And this Philistine. And in his youth, he's a man that loves God. And he was proud of his brothers. They were soldiers. He was proud of the army of his country. And he believed that his brothers and Saul was brave men. And then in verse 26, David speaks in verse 26. And David spoke to the men that stood with him, saying, what shall be done to this man that killeth the Philistines, and take away the reproach? And who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of God? See what David's saying? Who is this man? Why is everyone worried about him? And the people answered, what shall be done to them? And then Eliab, his eldest brother, heard him speak unto the men. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and said, why camest thou there hither? David is rebuked by his brother, and all he's saying is, why is this Philistine allowed to open his mouth? Who is this big mouthed man? I mean, David knew about the God of Israel that had opened up the Red Sea and took millions of Jews out of bondage of Egypt. How he brought down the walls of Jericho. How that they took them into a land that flows with milk and honey. He knew about the power of Almighty God. Who is this Philistine? Who is this Philistine? Why is everyone so scared of him? In other words, And his brother says, I know thy pride and thy naughtiness of thine heart. That they came to see the battle. Look at these. Look at the words of David here. And David said, what have I done? Is not this a cause? You know what David saying? Why are you rebuking me? Why are you having a go at me? Why aren't you fighting me? The problem is out there. His name is Goliath. Don't ever go at me. Go and have a go at him. Go and pick on him. You know, the Christians would get more done if we stopped fighting each other and started fighting the enemy. Here was David. He couldn't understand it. But you know, it's people find it easier to criticise the man of God than to listen to what the man of God is saying and do something about it. And the third step of victory is, the first one is don't make the rules. The second one is we have to be prepared to face the enemy. You see, you will never get the victory over your enemy unless you face him. You will never get the victory. All the prayer in the world will not give you the victory unless you face the victory, unless you face the enemy. I remember many, many years ago, before I got married, but I think my wife met her one time, a woman called Maureen in Scotland. Mm-hmm. And but before she got married, this woman had a fear of going on an escalator. She was scared to go on an escalator. And she had this fear. And what did she do? She went to every evangelist going and said, can you pray for me? Can you pray for me? Can you pray for me? And the evangelists were praying for her, and they were doing what most churches do. They cast out the spirit of fear, they cast out this spirit, they bound this spirit, they spoke the word into her, they declared the word into her, and still she had a fear of escalators. You see, all the prayer in the world will not do you any good unless you are prepared to face the enemy. You can pray for God to let you pass the exam, but unless you take the exam, it ain't going to do you much good. I mean, you've got to study. Then I was doing a meeting once and she said to me, can you pray for me? I said, how many people have prayed for you over this? Not a normal question that I normally ask, but I said, and she told me all the people that I prayed for her. I said, do you think, I said, all those people that I prayed for you, if prayer alone could have done the job, it would have been done by now? Why do you want me to pray for you when you've got all these people praying for you? I said, you've done everything. You've gone from one man to another man, from one man of God to another man of God. You've prayed, you've fasted, you've done this, you've done everything except get on an escalator. So I said, what you've got to do now, I'll pray for you, but you're not going to get the victory over it unless you get on that escalator.